So after 4 years, we're finally here. One of the last lords to get a legendary version, which is awesome. But unfortunately, you couldn't name a better duo than Micaiah, armor effectiveness, cav effectiveness. Literally couldn't name a better duo in this game. It's unfortunate we didn't get a staff, so I guess we'll just wait for Alencia or Shido or something. Who knows? Let's do this.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is nonetheless a bigger analysis video about the Legendary Banner, about Legendary Micaiah, and generally a should you pull kind of video to kind of get you thinking before the banner happens and you're hopefully not wasting all your orbs. So I'm going to make this a little bit of a lengthy intro because there's some things I want to talk about before we jump into the meat of the video, just mostly channel announcements. Try to give this a little bit of a watch before you skip ahead. So first off, I am going to be going on vacation for about a week because my birthday is coming up. So I'm just going to go to the beach basically for a week, which means I will not be producing any videos for about a week's time. So I'm not going anywhere. If anything, I might take my phone and do like some vlogs or something on the beach and just talk about an update notif or a banner or something like that, maybe, but it won't be edited. I'm not taking my equipment. I'm just chilling during my birthday week. So that's happening. But as soon as I get back, I'm likely going to do a big birthday stream, have some fun on Twitch with the chat, and likely upload that footage here on YouTube for you guys to enjoy of whatever the best bits are. So again, I'll still keep in touch with thoughts either on Twitter, maybe some random vlog video or something like that. But this is the last video for about a week or so until I get back to my equipment here and I record for you guys. All right. This video will feature, this particular one, we're going to talk about my speculative stats for Legendary Micaiah, where I think she fits in, ranking the win legendaries again, based on Micaiah's release, talking about her skills, the banner in general, like whether it's worth pulling or not, and finally the new section in which I get the community's feedback on whether they're going to pull or not, plus some picked comments on that, to kind of again help you formulate your best judgment as well. As always, like, feel free to let me know in the comments below, you know, what you think of Micaiah or the banner. I did cover the impressions before this, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So before we do this, smash the like button, sub if you haven't already. Thank you guys. If you want to participate in the comments and reasoning and stuff, I do post up the Patreon poll, which gives you Discord access, and you can definitely have a chance to be a part of what I'm going to feature later. And as well, I do unit reviews probably at least once a month, and a big air defense document is on there as well for my supporters, for those of you that feel like you struggle in Aether raids. So plenty of stuff to get back from me as I try to put in the best effort for you guys to improve your game. Let's do it. So first up, we're gonna not cover the banner yet. I'm gonna leave that for later. First, we'll start with Legendary Micaiah and where she stands. So if you're wondering how I came to that stat spread, that is purely speculative based on OG Micaiah stat spread. Now, the thing they have in common is that they're both infantry. OG Micaiah is just older, and I'm just taking the stats from her original version and just upping it to a more modern stat spread, and maybe a little bit more optimized as well. Definitely focusing on that attack and that res, which you totally would expect, dumping her HP stat and whatnot. So yeah, I'm totally expecting a stat spread like this. No way. I don't think they're going to do anything crazy here. I don't think she's going to have high speed or defense. That would honestly shock me. Think of her as like an anti-mage type of role that she's always kind of fulfilled. So this is how I came to that stat spread. Now, if you forgot where, like what her new skills do and such, I will give you guys a refresher on the left there, and she does come with that. As you'll notice, she comes with a great high attack stat, very likely. I'm sure she'll probably have like an attack super boon or something like that, maybe a res or speed one, who knows. And obviously it looks really good, especially when you factor in Fury 4 and New Dawn having extra attack on top of that, plus effective damage. She's gonna do her job. At least we always know this. There's a pretty good comparison for this in that being that OG Micaiah is already really solid as a blue tome. So Legendary Micaiah should do okay as well in fulfilling this role, and that's where I want to jump into some pros and cons here, which you'll see in my blackboard under me. So her being colorless is a good thing. That gives her mostly neutral matchups, the exception being Raven tomes, of course, but those neutral matchups are good, makes her meta resilient. So if there's a green unit, for example, that's really dominant, then OG Micaiah would struggle, whereas Legendary Micaiah would not. She's infantry, which is good, which means she would have access to stuff like null follow-up, null C disrupt, just like her original version, which is always great, although her B skill, her preference B skill, is pretty solid anyways and may not want to be replaced as it is because it has damage reduction. And damage reduction is superb because range can't really access it in most cases. There are obviously some preference weapons and such that can do damage reduction, looking at you, Legendary Claude, to a much higher extent than 30%, but generally speaking, damage reduction on a range is pretty good. However, she does have quite a few cons that I really have to make apparent here. The role overlap is really clear between her and OG Micaiah, and you're not seasonal locked with OG Micaiah, whereas with Micaiah you need win season to basically use her. So that does kind of suck, and I honestly feel like a merged original Micaiah, if you have her, will get the job done anyways in most matchups where that happens to be the case. She does have some heavy ARD competition being colorless though, so that is the disadvantage of being colorless because, like, for example, if you are on Dark Season, you might already be using Brammy, and I don't feel like putting another colorless tome there is going to work really well. Again, seasonal locked on top of that, so you need Wind Dark to line up. And then on Anima, Duma is already there. He does magical damage, and you probably should be using Duma or some colorless like healers and such with like odd recovery. And if you do all that, then again, you're just too heavy on colorless and could potentially get swept by Raven tomes. And that would kind of hurt Micaiah-ish, because she does have a high res, to be fair, and she would probably do well against something like Cecilia, even with TA, but nonetheless, like, you don't really want to do that, and having some color diversity on defense is important. And a last thing I'll say as a con for her is that she doesn't win on win season. So sorry for the pun, but basically she's not really going to dominate win season the way Legendary Sigurd did. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We don't need Legendary Sigurd to be released every 2 months. No, thank you. He's good. He can stay good, and we don't need more of him every single time to basically break the meta every single time. So I'm okay with this release. Having balanced, solid units is okay, because then people can have choices as opposed to being obliged into specific characters that essentially are very defining. Alright, so let's talk about builds. If you're going to use Micaiah likely long term, then you'll want to +10 her and use her in Arena as a core unit. I'm sure she'll score pretty well because that preference B skill, probably comparable to Claude. So that's pretty good. And Sigurd as well, I think. So very high scoring. Now, because of her like auto follow-up, her damage, her desperation effect, damage reduction, she actually would, you could like literally keep her base kit and Fury 4 and Ruptured Sky, and you have a pretty good unit to use here to cover a lot of solid matchups in win season, or just Arena in general. It's not necessarily win season, but like, she's going to win against a lot of things on both player phase and enemy phase, and will do well against a lot of range units. So I think she'll do good. It's just she's not gonna like be amazing, and that's what I feel will offset a lot of people from wanting to like get her or merge her up. She's still like generally one of my personal favorites because Radiant Dawn and Tellius, like Path of Radiance, has always been my favorites, and you know, they have a nostalgic connection for me. But generally speaking, she's not going to be game breaking, but she's going to be pretty good. Now you could also do something just to widen her matchups by giving her close counter, and that would help as well. You would want to patch up her defense, maybe with some close guard, try defense, something like that. And of course, because she's colorless, this does give her some pretty neutral matchups across the board, which should make your arena experience overall easier. So Last thing I want to mention here, of course, is two more things rather, is AR offense usage, and it should be fairly similar to how you would be running original Micaiah with like either null C or null follow up, depending on how she runs it. But with her, you could run her preference B skill and potentially even make use of her weapon's desperation effect, which we'll talk in a moment. So as a counter pick to like anti-armor, anti-cav teams, just anti-range, Micaiah in win season should generally be okay to throw into an AR offense team and have a good time. There's not really much to explain with this. I've covered actually OG Micaiah and her Resplendent, I think a couple months ago when she got it. So it's the same, it's pretty much the same playstyle there. Finally, the last thing that I feel could potentially make her special is the desperation auto follow-up effect of her weapon. So similar to how I feel like Brave Lysithea is pretty like sleeper good or really good if we had more like recoil or damage effects, being able to set up Micaiah using Ardent Sacrifice rather than her preference skill could be very, very strong and would actually make her one of the better users of something like Brazen Attack Speed 4, which otherwise I hasn't really seen much use. So that plus Ardent Sacrifice and more Winter Bernadetta type of enablers or Duma on the enemy team or something like that will make her extremely powerful. Keep in mind that all this does make her weaker to essentially no follow-up, because I doubt she'll have a speed stat in which she can like use her weapon effect to the best potential if she runs into enemies that do run no follow-up. So that kind of sucks, but nonetheless, it's going to make her interesting or good in some regards. So yeah, that basically covers my kind of opinion on Micaiah for now. She could age better, but I see her just being good and nothing more than that. Let's go into how I feel about where her ranking is in the Legendary season. So I'm kind of putting her as tentative between S and A, between like probably Lucina and Gunthra, but definitely not better than Sigurd. She could potentially be better than Lucina, but I actually don't feel like that's the case, which is why I put her kind of like in the A between Gunthra and Lucina, but potentially behind Sigurd. So she's hovering here, and until we get more like usage of her, defense, offense, and arena, until I see more gameplay, then I'll put her into a firm spot by the time next time I cover Win Legendaries. This is more of a tentative spot, but I feel pretty confident this is where she'll land. If you don't know why I rank the Legendaries like this, again, I did actually cover the Win Legendaries this particular month, and you can go review that video, which will probably be in the description or above my head in a pop-up or whatnot. So yeah, I feel she's right about here. Gunthra is really good with her Refine, both on skill and weapon. And with G Dual Cav, she's going to be scoring really well as well. And finally, Legendary Lucina with Future Vision will get a Refine and make her ridiculous to the point where I feel like she will surpass someone like Micaiah. Likely not Sigurd, though. Sigurd is going to be the king of win season, and I don't think that's really going to change no matter what happens. Unfortunately for Micaiah, she doesn't really win against Sigurd, nor does she really win against Corrin, which is unfortunate. In terms of matchups, like, she shouldn't really be killing Sigurd because he has 40% DR on his weapon and 80% if he keeps Crusader's Ward, which means Micaiah, even with effectiveness, is likely still not going to kill him. So that's kind of like oof, I'd say. And with Corrin, she has her like huge damage reduction in her special, which actually gets recharged as soon as she like hits back. So even with Micaiah's auto double, even if she was to survive against Corrin, it's going to be tough for her to survive, and the auto double will still hit into 2 damage reduction hits for Corrin. So mostly she's not really winning her matchups against the most recent Win Legendaries. I'm sure she'll do okay against the more like the older ones like Lucina and Gunthra, but that doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, there's a lot of factors at play here, like scoring and just overall the meta and how you can fit in to help either your teammates or everyone. So like, I think she's still better than Corrin overall, but not necessarily doing really well against the other ones in terms of matchups. So it is a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. Again, go review the Win Legendary video if you need to on why I put everyone here in their placements. Finally, let's talk about the banner itself. and how I feel about it. Now, what I did this time is, well, I'm going to be doing this for every single banner going forward, is I got your feedback on the, like, which are you planning to pull, would you pull, we'll call it something like that. And between my Patreon poll and my YouTube poll, I wanted to see if there was a discrepancy. There pretty much isn't. I'd say that, you know, everyone seems to be pretty much on the same page here. I'd say those that said yes, all my orbs, either A, don't save orbs, or B, Micaiah is likely their favorite, or have some sort of merge project that they were planning to save for here anyways. So again, there's always going to be people that are going to say yes, and that's totally understandable. Only a bit, again, I feel like maybe people are picking up one-offs or something like that, and just off comments that are read, this seems to be the case. And yeah, it seems like most people are likely skipping. And I feel like this should be the case for most legendaries and mythic banners. You should be able to plan ahead, months in advance, on which banner will provide the best value for you, because even one-offs of these legendaries and sometimes mythics, even offense mythics, aren't really going to provide that much value nowadays, and you shouldn't really be risking hundreds, potentially even 1,000 orbs trying to get copies of these units. It's too risky, it's too much gacha, and overall, I just don't recommend it. So in terms of should you be pulling from Micaiah and her banner, probably not. You guys are totally right in this aspect. But if you have merge projects that need to get finished, there could be a case to be made. For example, if you have Fallen Edelgard at mid-merges and Ashera is one of your Astra mythics that again are merged, then Micaiah will likely be a good, like Colorless will be good to spend hundreds of orbs on. I could totally see that. The other colors are more questionable. Like, I couldn't see people spending on Sothis and Lilina. Maybe some of you are still merging up Edelgard and Sothis. No, Edelgard and Thrasir from their previous overlaps, definitely. And maybe you want to like finish Naga and get some decent one-offer fodder between Farina and Ingrid. But that's likely the only cases I see happening. And for the most part, I couldn't even suggest even pulling here and maybe just waiting for a rerun to see where they land. Now, I wanted to showcase a couple of comments here from you guys on Patreon and my Discord and round out the whole picture here. So we have Sniddles here. It says, Mickey is a longtime favorite of mine, and I'm happy her legendary has finally appeared. She has anti-cav and armor niche, an interesting desperation effect on weapon, and will score high with Prescient's preference B skill and have a DR skill as a bonus. I'm late to the party with legendary unit merge project for scoring as well, so I'm going to summon for her in this banner, being how she's sharing with Ashera for AR merges and Fallen Edelgard, considering how strong she is, and a potential score bot. But will not go too hard because I have to see what else shares with the next coming months, unless of course she shares with nothing interesting later that will benefit me, and then I'm going to commit as much as I can here. I'm hoping her speed stat will not be too bad and workable like Legendary Crom, but overall I'm excited for Aether, and the art is pretty fantastic. So I totally agree, this is good. If you're just like getting into the game and like Ashera again is your merge project, you're already merged Fallen Edel, and like, you know, Micaiah's a favorite, or you just, you don't have a win legendary merge, then this is actually pretty solid for Colorless, and I completely agree with Sniddles here. Her speed stat, even though I speculated will be kind of mid-range, of course you could push that up with a speed boon and potentially speed stack her enough to make her weapon more consistent and her matchups in general more consistent. So solid plan, always have a plan in mind and see what comes next, right? All right, next up we have a comment by Marilena who says, I'll be going for one copy of Micaiah. I'm a casual player, so stuff like legendary mythic merges aren't too important to me. I'm so happy that our artwork was done by Hakan, as they are one of my favorite artists. I'm a little concerned by the fact that she's an infantry colorless mage instead of a flyer, since every other colorless mage is infantry. Yeah, except Bridal Micaiah. There it is. There's going to be a little bit of competition there. It doesn't help I have a plus 10 Bridal Micaiah too, but at least the overlap isn't as bad as I was expecting. It's true, like the flyer skills and access a bit different between infantry, and you're probably better off being infantry anyways. Bridal Micaiah being plus 10 though is solid for arena, and that dual skill will definitely help. But yeah. Anyways, she did edit the comment and she says, I'm honestly kind of underwhelmed. There's nothing really new or unique that sets her apart from all of her other ults. What's the real difference between her OG form and this? And of course, I did go over that in this video. Not that much, to be honest. She'll just end up having high attack, high res, low speed once again. Even the damage reduction is the same. It's unfortunate that she hasn't been able to escape IS's strong need to keep her unit stats in line, except if you're 3-house unit, I suppose. Oh, sorry. But yeah, I mean, as like if you're just collecting, then yeah, Micaiah is gonna be like a decent one-off, I guess, as some sort of anti-meta kind of counter pick. I guess, but the overlap is so hard, it's so prominent that it's hard to suggest anyone really like go for Micaiah unless you plan to go for that +10 and you need that win legendary, and the value of like Edelgard and like Ashera is just eye-popping. You know, like that point is really clear here. Final comment for today is by Mario, who says, I'll just be taking the free summon and stopping there. Main reason for me is I need to save orbs for the upcoming September Mythic banner, as I plan to continue merging Claude and Legendary Leaf. However, here's why. First glance, I wouldn't invest into her even if I didn't need to save her other units. Micaiah simply lacks the uniqueness of what I can make legendaries like Claude and Sigurd the monsters that they are. True. I have no doubt she will be a great combat unit in 2021, but the X factor that gives unit longevity is not present in her case. I mean, Micaiah is good. Like, OG Micaiah did age well, so of course, like, this legendary will be decent in the long term too, but she's just good. Like, there's nothing amazing here that's, like, game-defining. Not everything needs to be game-defining, of course, so. I fear she'll have a hard time surviving retaliatory attacks from Meta's strongest physical units, even with her preference skill's damage reduction. Additionally, her B skill means that if she wants to run things like NCD, she'll lose out on her damage reduction. She might also be super hard countered by no follow-up in general. This is not what I'd be looking for in a legendary. I love Micaiah as a character, but not enough to invest in this iteration, as she competes with Sigurd in win season, one of my favorite characters from favorite FE game in the series, who also happens to be significantly more useful than legendary Micaiah. So yeah, solid points. I basically agree with everything here. And there's some really solid comments. Hopefully it gave you guys some perspective as well. Overall, I don't think you guys need to really be stressing out about this banner. Maybe it's a good time to save some orbs, if you ask me. And yeah, that basically lines up everything. As a quick reminder, I will not be producing any high quality videos within the next week because I have my birthday coming up, so I'm gonna be off for the week, going to the beach. And if I do produce any videos, it'll just be a casual like phone vlog or something talking about an update or a banner or whatever that we happen to be getting. So again, keep up with me on Twitter, and maybe I'll make some posts or maybe just some casual videos, shorts, who knows, something like that. That's where I'll be for the upcoming week. When I get back, I'll do a Twitch stream, a birthday stream celebrated, and upload some clips. That's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching as always. You guys are great. If you like the video, smash the like button, sub if you haven't already. If you want to support the content or get involved with some of the comments or other bonuses, check out the Patreon in the description below. That's it for me. Love you all. Peace.
It's over.